Hello and welcome to my channel. I recently had the pleasure of watching a Linus Tech Tip video where they were discussing their experience using Linux for a short period of time. I don't think I can go back to Windows. For those who haven't seen the video, I will link it in the description and on the screen. In their video, they basically listed out their positives and negatives when trying to use Linux for a set time period. Mostly positives, but some negative things, which is what we will be looking at in this video, as most of them are easily fixable. Firstly, let's acknowledge their most pleasant experiences. Number 1. Privacy. This was the biggest factor for me, and why I migrated towards Linux to begin with. This goes way further than just not having your Word document sent to Copilot. Windows has telemetry on top of everything in your system, including, but not limited to, your clipboard history, including passwords, your screen, yeah, they take screenshots of your desktop constantly. This feature is called Windows Recall. A Microsoft account is now effectively mandatory for Windows 11. Windows 11 Home requires you to sign in with a Microsoft account during setup, and the simple offline/local account workaround keeps getting patched out with each update. Your machine is tied to the cloud whether you like it or not. An advertising ID and baked-in ads, this ties back to your Microsoft account. Windows assigns your device an advertising identifier and surfaces suggestions and promoted apps in the start menu and lock screen, File Explorer, and even the settings panel. You pay $139 to be milked for ad revenue. It's an absolute fallacy. OneDrive and Copilot reaching into your files. They constantly prompt you to back up your folders to OneDrive automatically, and many users experience this happening regardless of their consent. Copilot is the single most critiqued, and for good reason. It's now hardwired into your OS, constantly watching your screen and files, and whatever else yet they haven't disclosed. Telemetry. Even at the strictest required only setting, Windows keeps sending diagnostics data back to Microsoft. On any Windows Home, which is the commercial edition, you have no choice but to accept this, and increasingly same for the Windows Pro edition. And to top it all off, the direction this is heading is you will be required to use your government ID or biometric scans to use your device. I am not playing around with this. Windows both wants and needs this to serve you ads more efficiently and comply with the lobbied government. They will eventually start requiring you to scan your face and upload your passport to use your device. This is a big issue on many levels, and I probably don't need to explain why. Number 2, an OS you can trust. Enterprises, data centers, and developers have been aware of this for many years. Every supercomputing cluster runs Linux. A lot of developers are already switched to Linux and are using them inside of WSL, which is Windows Linux, which is exactly that. It's Linux inside of Windows, and a cry for help to patch the sinking ship that is development on Windows. Also note that the French and German government, as of April 8th, 2026, has the DINUM has announced a government-wide move off Windows onto Linux. Yeah, they ordered every ministry in France to produce a formal roadmap to cut non-European tech dependencies as of autumn 2026. Please do not be confused. This is a mandate and a promise. France is doing this. And please know that in Europe, France has been the leader of tech laws for a long time. GDPR, which is well known, was a massive success and largely litigated by France. Germany is following close along. They're moving off Windows and onto Linux and LibreOffice. Number 3, game compatibility. Many people will be surprised to learn that a lot of games are now available on Linux. And it's also speeding up. Games will become increasingly more compatible with Linux as more and more people switch over. It's a self-fulfilling cycle that just took a while to take off. Consider where it was 2 years ago. We're almost there already. Number 4, HDR and broader software capability. In the LTT video, Linus had a trip to Sony to check out one of their TVs. And in there, he needed to output some non-copyrighted footage onto the TV, presumably to make a video. He had a Ubuntu laptop with him and found how effortless Linux does HDR. This tracks because of something called KDE Plasma and Plasma 6, as they have proper HDR support, so Linus's it just works experience is exactly what you can expect for something like this. This is one of many examples of what free, audited, open source software is. And the thing with Linux is that when someone finds a bug, they fix it, either upload a fork or report it to developers, who then patch the software and it becomes more stable over time. This is FOSS, free open source software. Magic, and is why Linux and the open source libraries can be so stable. Anecdotally, Windows is a black box, closed source proprietary, no one knows what's happening behind the scene, and is why we are in the position that we are in.
The primary reason I am staying mainly on Linux is because Microsoft.
Just one last point, the Linux memory testing. It's available in the grub menu on boot up to test RAM stability. This software is 20 years old and has been independently audited by some of the best computer scientists and mathematicians on Earth for decades. Windows has their own little fart of this tool. The Linux tool is the standard software used by data centers and enterprises. This reliably finds memory instabilities and intermittent issues way before they cause issues in production, and is therefore trusted. The Windows tool I haven't used personally, but on Reddit, many IT managers say that it's unreliable and overlooks issues that the Linux tool found in seconds. This is as much a slap to Windows as it is to closed source versus open source software. Number 5, fun and ease. Linus correctly states that Windows' issues are problems by design.
I felt like they're problems by design, whereas on Linux, I feel like they're problems by, we didn't get to that yet.
He could not be more right in stating this. Windows updates and forced reboots. This is the most classic, most brutal issue, and is probably responsible for millions of lost productivity hours. Windows decides for you when you need to restart and for how long. They could let you fully opt out of this, but chooses not to. On Linux, you can do this whenever you want to. Just type in the command, accept the update, and you're done. Updates get pushed on the next kernel reboot, constant prompts and pop-ups. I remember in like 2013 or 2012, when Disney was showing Dr. Doofenshmirtz building a pop-up-inator to annoy people trying to do normal activities, getting hit with a pop-up for absolutely no reason. You're just trying to open your folder and boom, behold! Back up your OneDrive-inator. Disney was ahead of its time. Windows does not have to do this, yet they keep doing it because it boosts paid services by like 0.2%. Windows has a whole R&D lab designing the most intrusive BS imaginable. Forced reboot-inator, forced update-inator, verify your ID-inator, Bing results in your start menu-inator. Number 6, building computers. Linus is no newcomer to building PCs, and Linus says that
The whole going through and getting the drivers rigmarole bothers me more than it probably should. And on Linux, it just isn't a thing. If you've got a recent kernel, it just, everything, my Wi-Fi, my Bluetooth, all of my crap, mostly, just works.
And it blows me away that in the year 2026, Microsoft can't have a similar experience with Windows Update. Now, here is why that difference actually exists. On Linux, the drivers live inside the kernel itself. One kernel ships with thousands of drivers already built in. So you plug in your Wi-Fi card, your Bluetooth, and the system already knows what it is. It just works. On Windows, the drivers are separate little packages you have to go through and fetch yourself, often from some sketchy vendor website, one at a time, rebooting between each one. That's the rigmarole Linus is talking about. But the problem goes so much deeper than this. Windows welds itself onto the exact hardware it was installed on when you do this. The drivers, the activation, even your login are all bound to that specific board. So the moment you try to swap any hardware, Windows panics. I was a victim of this just 4 days ago trying to change my motherboard. All I did was switch from a X670P to an X650E. That's it. One part, and Windows immediately locked me out of my own account because the security chip, the TPM, lives on the motherboard, and the new board had a different one, so my PIN was suddenly invalid. I went on with this for a few hours trying to change settings via Linux boot on a USB, but I eventually gave up and went back to the 670p board. When I was able to type in my PIN, upon trying to log in, the system just crashed. Blue screen of death. And truly, it was unlike any normal blue screen I've ever seen in my life. The text looked like Egyptian glyphs. Windows crashed so hard that instead of telling me what was wrong in plain English, it dumped a 1.3 gigabyte file of raw kernel memory addresses. I had to dig through that dump for hours searching for patterns. I managed to find a few error patterns and used LLMs to cross-reference the addresses of what could be wrong, and eventually made a Python script that was able to search through and uncover more and more patterns in error logs, which turns out to be a single graphics driver that didn't like the new board. Unless you're a computer brain surgeon, you're looking at a reinstall, and you can kiss your data goodbye. All of this by swapping, then unswapping one component. In case it wasn't clear enough, that whole time Linux booted off a USB stick that had survived a laundry machine a few months earlier. Had it not been for the Linux kernel, I would have been so screwed and locked out of all of my data. Screw you, Windows. Now on to the bad stuff. The Linus Tech Tip team stated that they missed a couple features from Windows, like being able to scroll by pressing down your middle mouse button. This is also something that I missed, so let me show you how I managed to fix it. You run xinput list to find your mouse, and then you tell libinput to use the button scrolling on the middle mouse button. That's it. Hold it, and now you can scroll just like on Windows. The Linus Tech Tips team said that when something errored out, they couldn't always tell if it was Linux or the game causing it. That's a fair complaint, but here's why it happens. Windows games on Linux run through a translation layer called Proton, so when it breaks, the blame could sit with the game, the translation layer, the driver, or the kernel. That's the cost of running something that was never designed for a Linux in the first place. But just keep in mind, this is changing. When more devs start shipping native Linux versions, that whole translation issue just disappears. But for now, let me show you how to actually do this when something breaks. Step 1. Launch the app from the terminal instead of clicking the icon. Just type in its name and hit enter. When it crashes now, it prints the reasons right there on your screen. If it complains and the rest of the system is quiet, the app is broken and it's not Linux. Step 2, if you want to see what the system thinks, open a terminal and type Ctrl+E. That drops you to the most recent system messages in old human readable text. Search it up and ask your favorite LLM to decode it for you if you don't understand what it says. Step 3, if you suspect hardware or a driver, run dmesg. If your crash shows up in there, it's a system thing, not the app. And now for the one I actually recommend, especially if you're out of your depth, you can install two free tools, Ollama and OpenCode. Ollama runs an AI model locally on your machine, and OpenCode lets that model actually look around in your machine. You can run it in read-only view mode and then point it at the problem and say, fix it. Tell me what happened and maybe build me a report or whatever. And then it will go through the logs and draft you a plain English report. No more scrolling the Reddit, no more 12-year-old forum post, it just does it for you. It's honestly so amazing. I want to add a bit of personal emphasis here because it works so shockingly well on Linux, precisely because everything on Linux gives precise standardized errors at known locations, which is perfect for a pattern matching AI. Ollama, open code, and all of that are also part of the 4-letter ecosystem that I just love. Free open source software. It runs fully offline and there is no subscription and no account. Also, I won't pretend that it's easy right now because we are relatively early to all of this. The more of us that struggle and problem solve our way through this, the easier it will be in the future. Think of it like cutting down the bushes so that the highway can be built later. Linux gets better every single month and you're part of the reason why. Search. In the LTT video, there was a bit of criticism about the Basside search field. On Basside, this is more than just a search box, it's a command runner. Basside ships KDE Plasma as the desktop, so this is actually not Linux, it's KDE Plasma. The search bar in KDE Plasma is a command runner, krunner. It is a launcher that can search apps, files, and is also a calculator, unit converter, command line, dictionary, and a system action runner. So when it sees a system command like sleep, it suspends the machine like it was designed to do. And is way more powerful with no bings attached. This isn't really meant to be different to Windows, it's a different tool altogether, and is way more powerful with no bings attached. What you can do if you don't want all of this is open System Settings, search Plasma, search krunner, and tick the individual plugins on or off. If you don't want system commands and you wanted a dumb search field like Windows, you can just disable enough plugins to do that. Try doing that on Windows, you cannot turn off Bing, haha. Linux supremacism. This is the one thing that can't be solved by a command or a plugin. There is a loud vocal minority on forum sites that seem to have endless amounts of time being as rude as possible to newcomers asking legitimate questions. This type of elitist gatekeeping is what kept a lot of people on Windows to begin with, and it also seems like they want some sort of recognition for being a Linux user, as if they're somewhat technologically superior to a Windows or Mac user. It's insecurity mixed with bravado behind a username on Reddit. This is something I myself struggle with, and is why I went the AI path, using AI scrapers to filter the knowledge and deliver it in a clean, dense format with no insults. Arguing with these people online is the same equivalent as smoking a pack of cigarettes for your mental health. Also note that this is largely true on all Reddit forums, not just Linux. I just think it's a toxic internet culture thing. Display capture in Wayland. Linus said he wished screen capture was simpler, and here's how to do it. Firstly, for xorg, which is the one I use and is the most common one, there is a free tool called ffmpeg, open source of course, and a single command will make you capture your screen. You point it at your display and it records video, audio, and also microphone if you want it. I liked it so much that I made my own wrapper and a little command called screenrec. For Linus, it's slightly harder because he's on Wayland. Wayland treats every window as its own sealed box, so that no app can secretly look at your screen from another window. This is a security feature. It's sort of the theme of Wayland, safety and privacy. Compared to Windows, where any program can just silently record your screen, which is what spyware does, or Windows itself, recall. On Wayland, it has to ask for permission first. One path is if you want to capture a specific program, you can launch that program inside a sandbox and record that. You can also change the resolution, frame rate, or whatever. Play around with this if you want. If you want to record your whole screen, the easiest way needs no install on KDE Plasma. You open the Spectacle app and choose Record Screen. On GNOME, you literally just press Ctrl+Alt+Shift+R. And it starts recording, press it again to stop, and the file lands in your video folder. If you want a proper command line tool with more control, install the one called GPU Screen Recorder. It's free and open source and goes through Wayland's permission system the right way. And here is the command in one line. And if your goal is streaming and you want a proper studio setup, just install OBS. It has native Wayland screen capture built in. Kernel level anti-cheat. for there isn't that many ways around it. But what you can do if you're on a desktop is install a second hard drive and run dual boot. That being said, if you use your PC for anything other than gaming as well, having games on a separate drive and possibly spacing them physically via air gapping or full disk encryption, of which Linux has many trusted open source tools, is probably the best way to keep your data sovereignty. Let's talk briefly about video editing software. This was something that was mentioned as sort of a problem, and it really doesn't have to be. You have two great options on Linux that are already native and built in, one of them being Blender, which is free, and the other one being DaVinci Resolve, which runs natively on Linux. This is the program I use and it works amazingly. Let me show you how to use it. Here I can just type in DaVinci Resolve and it will come right up. I also have it bricked down in a Fire jail so that it can't automatically become a subscription license in the future if they decide to change the license terms. Blender is self-explanatory. It's probably the best 3D animation software on the planet, and it can also do video editing. This will never become a subscription model because it's open source. I want to end this video on a very important note that goes far beyond your preference of operating system or convenience of use. It has to do with surveillance. In case you weren't aware, Windows is pushing age assurance and age verification on the OS level on your computer. This will not only be something that Microsoft wants, but is something that will be mandated by the government in both North America and in Europe. Essentially, Meta and various other advertisement agencies are losing out big on AI that is hard to verify on their platform. In order to actually filter out AI, they want you to have to scan your face, passport, or anything else that can verify that you're a real person to be able to just use your device. It's an ingenious law by Meta because it shifts the burden of responsibility and the fines that would be associated with it onto Microsoft, Apple, and whoever else makes operating systems. But as far as users are concerned, this is highly troubling. Firstly, having to scan your face or ID to use your computer is directly against GDPR, and it's also against good faith. And it's also a huge problem because I guarantee you these documents are not going to be stored securely. Creating a database with literally billions of people, biometric identity, is like the biggest gold pot ever for hackers. It's going to get leaked. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when that happens, you'll be glad you don't have your biometric identity in that pool. So this is where it stands. You can either keep using Microsoft, keep losing your privacy, and keep getting milked for ad revenue after you even paid for the OS, or you can switch to Linux, get a bit uncomfortable at the start, but eventually it will become as fluent as you are on Windows right now. Probably even better once you learn the command structure. I want to end the video here because we're sort of drifting off topic, but your privacy is yours and Linux protects it. That is the biggest selling point for Linux right now, and it's honestly one that you'll regret not doing earlier.